How's it, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of BandscoreCast. My name's Adam Wenzer, and I'm your host for today and for all future episodes of the BandscoreCast channel. Now, today we're live, and we're talking the Task 1, the academic Task 1 today. But before we kick it all off, if you like what you see on today's episode, please give us a big thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. The other way you can support the channel is directly via our Patreon page at patreon.com/BandscoreCast, where you can enjoy many benefits, including having access to my full library of work and having the opportunity to submit Task 1 and Task 2 writing pieces, some of which I will correct right here on the channel. But before we continue, another thing I love doing every episode is calling out someone awesome who continues to support the channel. And today I'd like to call out Marilia. Marilia from Brazil, thank you very much for all your support since the inception of the channel and for your ongoing support there. So thank you very much. All right, guys, what are we talking about today? We are talking about the bar chart and pie graph. Now, this is something that can confuse a lot of people. It's a couple of different tasks in one. So we shouldn't get too overawed by what we see. So don't get alarmed when I show you what we're going to do today. We just need to break it down piece by piece so we can actually execute on it. All right, so let's look at what the class today will entail. We're going to be looking at, obviously, an overview of the question and what these types of questions look like. Brainstorming vocabulary, which is something really important. You know, we need to make sure that we get a little head start. It's like going to the gym and warming up. We can't just go and do exercises straight away. We need to do a bit of a warm up before we start. The other thing we need to be looking at is tips around cohesiveness, and I'll be going through that today, and also looking at the framework in detail and how we do that. And at the end of today's episode, if you like what you saw, you can certainly download the notes for free and add it to your collection of things that we have gone through together. All right, guys, let's start the class and jump across. Okay, so here is the question. The following charts show student enrollment numbers for 2 universities over a 12-month period. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Now, just before we begin, I just want to show you or make you aware of something. These words here are the same for every single academic Task 1 exercise. What we're focusing on here is this part only. However, it is important to acknowledge that this is also asking us important things to do. So it says summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. Now, what's interesting here is IELTS, the actual test itself, doesn't tell us what the main features are. We have to determine them after we look at the question and we decide which way we're going to take it. It also says make comparisons where relevant. And today we will certainly do that, and I'll show you how to do it and the points that I would do it if it were me doing the test. So just back to the question, the following charts, we've got 2. They show student enrollment numbers for 2 universities over a 12-month period. Let's check it out. Let's see what we're dealing with today. Okay, so these are the 2 charts. The header here is estimated student enrollment numbers in 2021. Now, let's look at what we have here. We've got 2 charts. We've got one bar chart on the left, where we have, on the left, you can see we've got thousands of students, which is here on the left-hand side. Okay. That's our vertical axes. Our horizontal axis at the bottom is the month per year. Now, this looks very chaotic, but it's actually quite easy to unravel if we localize the subject that we want to look at. Let's first look at, or just before we go there, let's look what else we're looking at. We've got our project market share. Here we've got our 20%, 30%, and 50%. So here are the universities. We've got Greenleaf University being the pink one. We've got New Sky University being the blue one, and we've got others. So we can see here that the projected market share of Greenleaf is 20%, New Sky 30%, and others 50%. This also relates back to the bar chart. So we can see in this the main part here, the numbers for each of those 2 universities that have been outlined and when those students actually enroll in those universities. So the way I would look at this is, let's look at the blue one first, which is New Sky. So New Sky starts with very high and quite high enrollments in the first quarter of the year. The first quarter is the first 3 months, after which numbers drop, and they drop quite dramatically, after which they bounce back and then they drop again at the end. So let's just always just localize what you're looking at first. Don't try to do everything at the same time. Then let's look at the pink one. The pink one is Greenleaf. Enrollment numbers here are actually quite low in the first quarter, after which they skyrocket. They then slump over the next sort of 5 to 6 months. And at the end, there is quite a significant rebound in December. Now, before we continue, don't ever explain why something happens in this task one. Our task one job is to simply say what we see and then move on. We don't say this is happening because of this. We make the statement and then we move on. Okay, so let's brainstorm some vocabulary, shall we? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in some words that we think are going to be relevant to this particular piece of writing. The first one I'd like to use today is when it comes to. So when it comes to is something that we can use. Another piece of great vocab is at first glance. Now, at first glance is really all about when we look at the information for the first time, this is what we're seeing. And actually, instead of when it comes to, let's use according to. Actually, I'd like to use that in today's piece. The next couple of vocabs are according to. When we say according to, we're talking specifically about a piece of information. At first glance is the first thing that we see when we look at a graph or a chart. In terms of also talking about something specific, the word regarding is really good. So that's another thing we can use. In terms of decrease or drop, we're going to use the word slump. Slump means quite a significant decrease in the data that we're looking at. Thinking about the word significant, another good word here is markedly. Markedly means significantly. And the other word we're going to use today is also drop. So these are some of the words we're going to be seeing today as we're writing. And great. So what I would suggest is when you do your test, the first thing to do is just spend a couple of seconds, 5 or 6 words, getting the brain warming up, as we said before, and then getting ready to write. Okay, let's go down and further. Hello, that's me. Here we've got our question. Okay, so we need to start this piece of writing, and the first thing we need to do is we need to give some type of overview. Okay, let's do that now. I've pre-written this. I'm just going to copy it over sentence by sentence so you can see how I do it. Okay, first sentence. The pie graph and bar chart show forecasted enrollment data for 2 academic institutions over a 1-year period. Now, you'll notice in the question it does say student enrollment numbers. We've tried not to repeat many of the words from the question. We might find that we have to repeat a couple, but just really try to stay away from copying the words from the question. It's seen as quite lazy in terms of from an examination perspective. We want to use new words. We want to show the examiner that we've got a reasonable level of vocabulary. That's why we've used the word data here. Data is like numbers. So the pie graph and bar chart show forecasted enrollment data for 2, instead of saying universities, we've got academic institutions. Instead of over a 12-month period, we've got over a 1-year period. Now, the other thing to consider here as we're writing is we want to make sure the sentences are somewhere between 15 and 25 words long, and that's what we have achieved here so far. So you'll notice most of my sentences will sit between that 15 and 25 word mark. I would highly advise that you do the same when you do your test. Okay, next sentence and final sentence for the introduction for this particular piece of writing is we've got here, let me just scroll up for you. Okay, so we've got here, at first glance, remember at first glance is that the first thing that we see. At first glance, it's clear that both universities have significant market share. We noticed before that one had 20%, one had 30%, so together they've got 50%. So at first glance, it's clear that both universities have significant market share, and although fluctuations exist, so fluctuations are things going up and down, there are clear times in the year when registrations are at their highest. And that's exactly what we did see before. We saw that some universities, their registrations were at the start of the year, some second quarter, and they did fluctuate throughout. So in terms of an overview, that's pretty good. We've told the examiner what we are dealing with. First sentence. Second sentence, we've told the examiner what we actually see, and that's really what we're supposed to do there. All right, let's now move down further and talk about the first part, which is going to be the pie chart. Okay, so let's just go up a little bit just before we continue so we can see exactly what we are dealing with here. So the pie is here on the right-hand side. We've got 50%, which is other, 20%, and 30%. So that's really the information that we have to present right now. Let's go down again. Okay, so according to the pie chart, Greenleaf University together with New Sky University have 50% market share, with the former holding 20%. Now the former is the first thing in a list that we deliver. So if we say, in this case, Greenleaf and New Sky, with the former being the first one, which is in this case is Greenleaf. Now that's really all that we have to do here, because the pie is actually, the pie chart is separate, quite separate to the bar graph. So we can say what we see here, and then we can move on to our other information that we want to introduce. Okay, we're now going to turn our attention. We're now going to change direction. And you can see that what I'm going to write here. Turning our attention, so changing direction, turning our attention to the bar graph. Student admissions for New Sky are recorded as between 5,000 and 7,500 in the first quarter. So we're just focusing on one of the colors, and we're now going to narrate exactly what's happening here. So that's good so far. Now we've got are recorded. So that's in the passive voice. And that's our first sentence done. All right, let's go on to our next sentence. Where are we? Here we are here. Okay, let's just copy this one across as well. Okay, enrollments are seen. So what we've just mentioned is what's happened in the first quarter. We're then going to narrate what's then going to happen thereafter. So enrollments are seen to decline markedly over the following quarter, only to then rebound between August and November. So what this does, this is quite interesting language. We've got decline, so decline is like to decrease. Markedly, as we said before, is significantly. This is a good collocation, to decline markedly. Now, only to then is also great language to mean that if data is going in a certain direction and it changes, we can use that language. So in other words, the data is going here, only to then rebound between August and November. So again, really good language to use when we're describing what we need to describe. Okay, we're now going to go to our very last sentence for this data, and then we're going to do a bit of a recap. We're then going to go back and just make sure that we are accurate. Okay, last part. Registrations then dip slightly in December, so go down a little bit to finish at 6,000, which is the same number recorded 11 months earlier. Now, this is also really good because we're making a comparison. And as we said before at the very start of the class, these questions do require us to consider comparisons, and that's exactly what we've done here. So let's go up, and I'm going to narrate what I've just read to you, but let's look at the graph at the same time. So here we are here. So we've got here essentially, according to the pie chart, yep, Greenleaf University together with New Sky have 50% market share, as we said before, with the former holding 20%. So Greenleaf holding 20%, which is accurate. We're now going to move into the bar graph. Turning our attention to the bar graph, as we are now, student admissions for New Sky are recorded as between 5,000 and 7,500 in the first quarter. As you can see, that is accurate here. Enrollments are seen to decline markedly over the following quarter, yep, as they are here, only to then rebound between August and November. So they do. So they're high here. They drop over the next quarter, and they then rebound here. And then the last sentence was registrations then dip slightly in December, which they dip here, to finish at 6,000, which is the same number recorded 11 months earlier. So this number here is exactly the same as this number here. So that's a nice tidy picture of what we needed to do for this particular task. Let's go down again and continue with Greenleaf University, which is our next section. All right, let's start this off. Let's just grab the next sentence. Here we are. Okay. Now, when it comes to is also great language to shift direction. So when it comes to Greenleaf University, however, we're going to somewhat contradict what we've just said. So rather than following the same pattern, it might follow a different pattern, and that's what we're going to talk about here. When it comes to Greenleaf University, however, intake numbers, so again, intake numbers is similar to registrations, which is similar to enrollments. We're continually using different vocab to help us achieve what we have to achieve. When it comes to Greenleaf University, however, intake numbers are recorded as being under 2,000 for the first 4 months. After which, so that after which is also click the change in direction, after which they skyrocket to a high of 6,000 in May. So started quite low, after which, that point, they skyrocket to 6,000. All right, guys, we are at the last sentence already. So let's copy this across, and then we are finished. What we've got here, the very last sentence here is what's called a participle phrase. A participle phrase is when you don't have a subject in the first part of the clause. So what we've got here is, let's look. So we've got some information here. So following a slump in registrations over the next 5 months. So there's no subject here. We've got enrollments. So this subject here, enrollments, whatever is said before that relates to this, because we've got this ing form here, so following. So following a slump in registrations over the next 5 months, this is what we're talking about, enrollments bounce back in December, equaling the highest number of admissions recorded at New Sky University. Really good grammar to use here. So let's just go up again and have a little look at our graph and make sure that we've done the right thing. So let me read it again as we're looking at the information here. So when it comes to Greenleaf, which is the pink one, intake numbers are recorded as being under 2,000 for the first 4 months. So you can see here they are under 2,000 for the first 4 months. After which we've got that change, after which they skyrocket, to a high of 6,000 in May, which is exactly what we've got here. Now we're going to change direction again. So following a slump in registrations, this big slump here, over the next 5 months, this whole area here, enrollments bounce back in December. We can see the pink part here, equaling the highest number of admissions recorded at New Sky. So this number here is then equaling this number here. So before, what we noticed is that we did a comparison within the same color, so New Sky compared from here to here. What we're doing now is we're comparing this one to this one here. So we're comparing across different colors. And that, guys, is really the end of the piece of writing. So let's now go down again to see what we have. We've got a finished piece of writing, which is here. Now it's done. So in terms of numbers, we've got about 190. So we certainly don't want to go past 200. I'd say 190 would be like the maximum mark that we'd want to go for. Minimum word count for part 1 is 150. But we don't want to aim for 150. We want to make sure we're in comfortable territory. So we want to aim around that sort of 170 to 190 mark. And this is a really great piece of writing. So down the bottom, you'll notice that I've got here indicative IELTS band score being 9. Now you might say, Adam, why is it a 9? How can you tell? A couple of things. So in terms of the task response, we've done exactly what the task has asked us to do. It's asked us to look at both charts, make comparisons where relevant, and provide a summary, which we have done. Coherence and cohesion, what is that? So coherence is, can the examiner understand it? Is it, when you read it, is it readable, basically? And cohesion is, does it flow like a snake? Anything that's really cohesive just flows, and you don't really notice that the sentences are moving from one to the other. There's some really nice cohesive devices, we call them. And things like, regarding, when it comes to following, these are all really good cohesive devices. Lexis is your vocab. So we've used some really high level vocab here, as we've just seen. And again, band score 9. Grammar, range and accuracy, there are no grammar errors here. So I think we've done a really good job. So that's where we have it, guys. That's what we've done. I'm really happy with the piece of writing that we have achieved here today. if you've liked what you've seen in today's class, feel free to hit us up on social media and say good day. If there's anything in any future episode you'd like me to cover, very happy to look at that for you and to produce something around that content. But this is really, the last few weeks I've really been looking at writing to make sure that I'm giving you the tools to enable you to sort of stay confident, keep confident when sitting the test, so that when you come to doing your big day, that you're ready to go. All right, guys, take care. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Have a good day.